opening the door to the building of the third Jewish temple. Some called it a kiss from heaven.
We'll all see the building of the third temple in Jerusalem very soon.
June 7th, 1967. Israeli soldiers stand at the Western Wall for the first time in 1,897 years. The Temple Mount has returned to Jewish hands. But what happened next? 3 discoveries were made at this location that archaeologists still can't explain. The measurements matched a prophecy written 2,500 years before modern tools existed. Underground chambers revealed preparations that shouldn't be there, and the timing of events. It lines up with ancient predictions down to the exact day. What they found beneath the Dome of the Spirits changes everything we thought we knew. The third discovery is the one that made scientists go silent. Let me take you back further. For nearly 2,000 years, the Temple Mount sat under foreign control. The first temple, built by Solomon, was destroyed in 586 BC. The second temple? Gone in 70 AD when Romans leveled Jerusalem. Jewish tradition says a third temple must be built before certain end-times events unfold. But there's a problem. Where exactly does it go? Most people assume it's under the Dome of the Rock, that golden shrine you see in every photo of Jerusalem. They're wrong. In the 1970s, a handful of archaeologists started looking at a different spot, a smaller dome called the Dome of the Spirits. What they uncovered wasn't just historical evidence. It was 3 discoveries that align with biblical prophecy in ways that defy logical explanation. The first strange thing involves a piece of bedrock that's been sitting there for 3,000 years. The bedrock beneath the Dome of the Spirits measures exactly 52 cubits by 52 cubits. That's 85 feet square. Now here's where your jaw should drop. In Ezekiel chapter 43, written during the Babylonian exile around 570 BC, the prophet describes a vision of a future temple. He gives specific measurements. The altar? 52 cubits by 52 cubits. Ezekiel couldn't have known about this bedrock. He was in Babylon, hundreds of miles away, writing about something he saw in a vision. Yet 25 centuries later, when modern archaeologists measured this exact spot with laser precision, the numbers matched perfectly. But it gets stranger. This bedrock sits at the highest point of Mount Moriah, the same location where Abraham nearly sacrificed Isaac. The same threshing floor King David purchased from Araunah. 3,000 years of biblical history, all pointing to one specific piece of stone. If you want to see where this goes, hit subscribe now, because the next discovery involves something found underground that shouldn't exist according to historical records. The second strange thing was discovered completely by accident. In 1967, right after Israel took control, engineers were surveying the Temple Mount's foundation. What they found beneath this bedrock changed everything. Underground water channels, massive ones. Roman historian Josephus documented that after destroying the Second Temple in 70 AD, the Romans systematically dismantled Jerusalem's water infrastructure. They wanted to make sure no temple could function there again. According to official records, those systems were obliterated, except they weren't. Ground-penetrating radar revealed an intricate network of channels, cisterns, and ritual baths called mikvahs directly beneath the Dome of the Spirits bedrock. These weren't medieval additions. Carbon dating and architectural analysis placed them at the Second Temple period, possibly earlier. The system could hold millions of gallons, fed by aqueducts from Solomon's pools 12 miles away. Exactly what you'd need for temple sacrifices and ritual purification. Here's what archaeologists won't tell you. The water channels align perfectly with descriptions in the Mishnah, ancient Jewish texts describing temple operations. The placement, the depth, the flow direction, all of it matches. But there's a problem. If the temple was actually under the Dome of the Rock, like everyone assumes, these water systems would be in the wrong location entirely. Then came the statistical analysis that made skeptics go quiet. Researchers calculated the probability of the Golden Gate, the eastern entrance to the Temple Mount, aligning perfectly with both this bedrock and the ancient threshing floor location. Random chance. 7% for 3 separate historical landmarks to line up precisely on a 36-acre platform? That's not archaeology anymore. That's something else. But the third discovery is the one that involves time itself, and it's the hardest one to explain away. June 7th, 1967. The date Israeli forces captured the Temple Mount. Most people think it's just a random Wednesday during the Six-Day War. It wasn't random at all. That date fell on 28 Iyar in the Hebrew calendar. It was the second day of Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks. Now check this. When did Solomon dedicate the first temple? 2 Chronicles chapter 7 tells us it happened during a feast. Jewish tradition and historical calculations place that dedication on Shavuot, same feast, 3,000 years apart to the day. But it goes deeper. Ezekiel's vision of the future temple came in the 25th year of Israel's Babylonian exile. That was 573 BC. From 573 BC to June 1967, exactly 2,540 years. Ezekiel chapter 4 describes a prophetic timeline where each day represents a year. The math lines up in ways that probability can't dismiss. Here's the part that made archaeologists uncomfortable. In sealed chambers near the bedrock, researchers found clay vessels containing residue. Chemical analysis revealed traces of red heifer ash, the purification element required for temple service, according to Numbers chapter 19. These weren't tourist souvenirs. The vessels were sealed with methods used in the Second Temple period, preserved as if waiting. 3 discoveries. Ancient measurements matching prophetic visions, underground infrastructure that shouldn't exist, and timing that connects events across millennia with precision. Skeptics tried to explain each one individually, but taken together, the implications shift everything we understand about biblical prophecy and what's coming next. So what does this actually mean for biblical prophecy? According to the book of Daniel, sacrifices will be stopped during the end times, but you can't stop something that isn't happening, which means they have to start again first. The discovery of this location makes that possible for the first time in 2,000 years. Ezekiel's vision in chapters 40 through 48 describes a temple in extraordinary detail. Room dimensions, altar specifications, gate measurements, all laid out with architectural precision. For centuries, scholars debated whether Ezekiel was describing a literal building or using symbolic language. The bedrock beneath the dome of the spirits suggests it's literal. The measurements match. The location matches. Even the water systems match his descriptions of flowing water for purification. Here's where it gets complicated. The third temple doesn't have to be massive. Look at what happened after the Babylonian exile. In Ezra chapter 3, the Jews built an altar and resumed sacrifices before they even constructed the temple building. Same bedrock, same location, just an altar. If modern Israel wanted to fulfill prophecy, they wouldn't need to demolish the Dome of the Rock. They'd need access to this specific piece of bedrock under the Dome of the Spirits. The millennial kingdom prophecies describe a period when the Messiah reigns from Jerusalem with a functioning temple. Zechariah chapter 14 says, "Nations will come yearly to worship there." Revelation mentions a temple that gets measured. These aren't abstract ideas anymore when you have a confirmed location with evidence stacking up. But there's one massive problem nobody's addressing. The Temple Mount is the most contested piece of real estate on Earth. Jewish groups have been preparing for decades, training priests, crafting temple implements, even breeding red heifers. Meanwhile, it sits under Islamic control. How does that barrier get removed? What event would have to occur? Not everyone agrees with this location theory. Traditional archaeologists insist the temple stood under the Dome of the Rock. Their argument? That's where tradition places it. But tradition also said the Eastern Gate was always open until Islam sealed it. Ground surveys proved that wrong. It was closed for most of history. Here's what they don't want widely known. In 1968, Israeli archaeologist Asher Kaufman published findings identifying the Dome of the Spirits location. His work was largely suppressed, not for being inaccurate, but for being politically explosive. If the actual temple site is 300 feet north of the Dome of the Rock, it means construction could theoretically happen without touching Islamic holy sites. The Temple Institute in Jerusalem has been preparing for this moment since 1987. They've recreated over 60 temple implements using biblical specifications: priestly garments, gold menorahs, silver trumpets, all ready. In 2022, they announced 5 red heifers had been imported from Texas, animals that meet the rare requirements for the purification ritual described in Numbers 19. Why does the exact location matter so much? Because Daniel chapter 9 describes a covenant that gets broken in the middle of a 7-year period. The abomination of desolation happens in a specific place. You can't desecrate a temple that doesn't exist, which means before that prophecy unfolds, 3 strange things: measurements that match prophecy, written 2,500 years before laser technology, underground water systems that survived Roman destruction, and timing that connects events across 3 millennia, down to the exact day. The bedrock is there. The evidence is stacking up. The preparations are advancing. But here's what we haven't talked about yet. In September 2023, something happened at the Temple Mount that Israeli authorities tried to keep quiet. Construction workers drilling near the Dome of the Spirits hit a void. Ground-penetrating radar showed a chamber directly beneath the bedrock, large enough to hold something significant. When they tried to investigate further, the Waqf Islamic Authority shut it down within hours. What's in that chamber? Why the immediate lockdown? And why are satellite images from that week showing unusual activity at night around the exact location? The measurements revealed the location, but what's hidden underneath might reveal the timeline.